What up, everybody? How we all doing this Saturday evening? It's the first of the month, I believe. We've entered May. That's my month. It's the month of my birth. Welcome to the Transformer Slag podcast live stream Saturday night hangout. I'm yours truly, the Proto Man, and this is how we're gonna be doing it tonight. So we're going to overview some of the news this week, do some housekeeping on previous news and some updates in relation to stuff that happened over the week in relation to it. And then we'll take some super chat questions from the fans, talk about some toys, talk about some stuff we picked up this week perhaps, and then some. And I actually forgot one of the things I picked up today upstairs. Oh well, I'll just talk about it anyways. Yeah. So let's jump into that otherwise, and we'll just kick back and relax, and then we'll talk some robots. So, first piece of news that started at the beginning of the week, and it was a big one for a lot of people, was that of this announcement of these Transformers Generations War for Cybertron Kingdom Battle in Space packs. Now, the listing that did surface was one that referred to a Grimlock and a Generation 1 Earth Mode Prowl. Now, the big deal with this is that there was a lot of information with this listing. Specifically, the kind of information you would see would say a Hasbro Pulse or a Amazon listing, where it talks about how many different twists and turns does it take to convert the robot and stuff like that, which pretty much, I mean, we all guessed it anyways, but Grimlock is going to be a repaint of the Voyager class Kingdom Dinobot from Beast Wars. It's pretty much a given. I mean, ever since we saw that Dinobot mold, it was just a matter of time. We might have not got it in Masterpiece, but we sure as hell got it here. The second one is a Earth Mode Mirage, excuse me. Now, keep in mind, Mirage, he got some kind of Cybertronian-esque kind of Formula One alt mode with a closed cockpit, which most Formula One cars have an open cockpit. Actually, pretty much all of them do, for safety reasons. And so they're probably going to do something different, because what they say here is essentially it's 19 steps, which apparently is one step more than the original. So it could be potentially a brand new mold, or alternatively, it could be something that's just a retool of the pre-existing Siege mold. Could be. I'm kind of excited about that because I really want a really good modern Mirage. I liked the original. One, the classics one, even though it was kind of spindly and thin. I dug it. I thought it was pretty cool. I was even thinking about repainting it red at one point. That's a whole other story. So I kind of look forward to this. I really do. And the reason why we have Starscream and Waspinator shown here along with Amazon is the speculation that this listing entailed. Because this Battle Across Time price point, as well as a lot of its descriptors, seem very similar to that of the Galactic Odyssey collection that Amazon had. Don't quote me on this, but it is a possibility that this might be yet another stream of Amazon exclusives that pretty much a lot of people were not happy with. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I really, really do, because those things were difficult for me, especially where I came from in the world. I can't even imagine how it must be for other people. Now, the reason why Starscream and Waspinator there is inside the description of this Battle Across Time subline. They mentioned that of Starscream and Waspinator being part of this collection. They're probably going to be also paired up at some point. Probably it's going to be like a Waspinator versus Starscream kind of thing. Is the Starscream just going to be yet another repaint, repack of his Earthrise mold, perhaps? Could it be something completely out of left field? Maybe Generation 2 colors on that Earthrise mold? Who knows? Who knows what they're going to do? But there's going to be a Starscream and potentially a Waspinator 2-pack based on what was written there. So I guess that's one way we're going to get our Waspinator. Maybe it'll be a different color scheme. Maybe it'll have his mutant head. Maybe it'll have his non-mutant head. There's a lot of little different ideas that could be done there. But it's exciting. It shows that it's a potential. And that is that. Now, when that news broke, I was bombarded the following day with a whole bunch of images showing of a potentially leaked Dinobot. And I had to quash that right away because in my Discord, a lot of my cool people in my Discord were already able to locate the fake image in its original form. So pop with that. So the one on the left was the one that was being sent to me constantly. People claiming that, oh, we have the leaked images of the Dinobot here, the Grimlock from the Dinobot mold. And the people on my Discord right away did the detective work and found the original image fairly quickly. So needless to say, that's not the image if you've seen it. If you've seen that image kicking around, that's not the Grimlock figure. It's just, yet again, someone on the message boards just trying to stir up a lot of trouble. Don't trust anything you see right now in terms of grainy photoshopped images online. You have to really take it all with a grain of salt. And a lot of the websites kind of claim this as news, and they didn't update it, saying that it was not, fake. So a lot of misinformation got pushed around. So guys, that image that you see on the left that you've been seeing, it's not the Grimlock. We haven't seen any images of it. Something will surface hopefully sooner more than later, but that's not the case. Sorry about that. Let's get into the second piece of big news that we got this week, and it was our first look at the Shattered Glass collection line via Hasbro Pulse. Bam! So, we knew about this collection primarily because of leaked listings. We knew that we were going to be getting a Megatron, a Goldbug, a Jetfire, and a Blur. Those were the 4 that were listed. Hasbro told us here that we're going to be getting 5 of these, and they're going to be coming with an exclusive comic book with an exclusive cover by the legendary Casey Collar, who is one of my favorite Transformer artists, so I'm very happy that he's doing the covers. And they're going to be repaints, because that's pretty much what Shattered Glass has always been. I mean, it was a BotCon concept back in 2008, and BotCon is all about damn repaints, so it's going to take a sip of water there. So it's just, it doesn't surprise me. I'll be honest with you, I'm pretty impressed what they did with this Siege Megatron mold. I know that some people aren't feeling the way they did the alt mode. They're saying it even kind of reminds them of a Transformers Prime kind of Megatron. But I dig it. I dig it a lot. I like how much they were able to do within those limitations, and what it tells me even more, because of all those 3mm plug holes that a lot of those Siege and Earthrise toys have, that we've been kind of sleeping on. We've only been thinking really, okay, how do we stick our fossilizers on these characters? How do we stick like our Battle Masters on these characters? But no one ever really thought about how you could really utilize it for practically making entire brand new alt modes and brand new characters without having to remold the toy at all. And that's what we kind of have here with this brand new, I guess we could call it arm shield piece that makes the cockpit, and the 2 little wings that make the wings on the side to really, invoke what that original mold was. Because anyone who remembers the original Shattered Glass Megatron, it used the Energon Megatron mold, which turned into a jet and had those big blue wings and the clear translucent plastic. So they did a very good job at transitioning that. I know some people ain't feeling it. I think it looks great. I personally think it looks great. I dig it. I don't know how I'm going to be able to get this, because it's probably going to be very difficult, but I will try somehow to get this product because I think he looks really cool. Now, I want to do an update, because when I first reported this, this was when the information had first dropped and it was only available to premium members. And I was praising Hasbro how I was surprised that the price for the item was $29.99, which was pretty much MSRP of the product, like as if you got a normal Voyager out in the wild. And the fact that you got a comic book and it had all these extra pieces, and they still kept the MSRP. Lo and behold, my praise of Hasbro fell a little too short, because apparently it was an error, and Hasbro was quick to update that on the Hasbro Pulse website, and it will be $36.99. And that's unfortunately the case. So I was praising them for giving us the extra pieces and all the cool new stuff in the comic, but still keeping a Voyager MSRP. And well, darn it, Hasbro, you disappointed me. I thought I was going to praise you for some great work. And again, I still love what I see here. But you got to tell whoever's working, and this isn't the first time this has happened, where Hasbro Pulse product went live and the price that was offered was the incorrect price. And guys got to get on top of that. What's up, Stinkfist, and what's up, Aaron? So getting back to what I was saying with the Casey Collar art, which is in the top right there, Casey is doing the exclusive cover for the first issue of the Shattered Glass comic book. This is an exclusive cover that will be available only through this version and this purchase. There's probably going to be also a regular version available in comic book retailers. I like it a lot. And for people who didn't catch what that was homaging before, oops, I jumped ahead there. Didn't catch what they were homaging before. Casey was going for that famous pose from the Transformers 1986 movie, Transformers, the movie, Optimus jumping into battle to, turn the tide, so to speak. So very nice touch there. Casey did a really good job. Amazingly, a lot of people didn't catch this. I saw it right away when I saw. Casey is probably easily one of the best artists, so I really dig what I see here. Awesome stuff. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you guys are too. And again, the rumors are that we're going to be getting Goldbug. We're going to be getting Jetfire, supposedly the Commander class, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. We're going to be getting Blur, which we already know. And we're going to be getting, potentially, the rumor is Starscream. It kind of makes sense because we'll have a Commander class with Jetfire, which will be 2 per case. We'll get a Voyager in both of Siege, Megatron in here, that mold at least, and the Starscream, which I assume will be from the Earthrise one or the Siege one. Who knows which one they'll pick. And that'll be 2 Voyagers, so 2 Voyagers of each one, 4 per case. And then, of course, the Goldbug, probably the Bumblebee, I'm going to assume. The Bumblebee, Netflix mold, along with the Blur, which are 2 deluxes. So same story there. We'll probably get maybe, 4 of each, 8 per case. So it kind of works out with how the case assortments work and how they're going to do the rollout for the product for Walmart and all the other listings and all the other companies. But we'll see what happens with that. Speaking of prices and speaking of companies, here's a bit of bad news. So Hasbro reported today through Reuter that they are going to be increasing the prices of their products across the board. They claim that it has to do with a lot of environmental issues, having to change their packaging, increasing wages, the fact that due to the big V that's been going on in the world, it made it very difficult to get product to distributors. You know what? I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, but I'll be honest with you. They've been raising prices consistently for quite a while now, and it's always been some kind of excuse. And they've always shifted factories, and they've always gone to other directions. And okay, we're going to get rid of the copyright on packaging. We're going to get rid of the trading card. We're going to get rid of the tech spec. We're going to get rid of unique box art at one point. We're going to get rid of they just already with Kingdom, we're seeing how they're going to be handling windows and that kind of plastic and how they reduce that cost and the environmental cost too, also in relation to that. Already moving from China to Vietnam to reduce that cost too, because it's obviously cheaper to make the product in Vietnam, using SABS and MBABS plastic instead of some of the harder ABSs and PVCs. There's a whole bunch of things that have been going on. But I mean, I've been tracking it for years, and I'll show you just a recent one, let's say. And, in 2007 and 2009, which is around the time of Animated and Transformers Universe 2.0 and stuff, like deluxes were $10. And then by 2010, only a couple years after that, they jumped to 13. By 2015, they were 17. By the time we get to Kingdom, in the modern era, 5 years after that, we're at 23. Anything that's in red, by the way, is a price increase. Anything that's in black is a price staying consistent to the previous product, although there is some kind of weird exceptions, in the case of, let's say, the Legend scale being labeled differently and everything like that. But I mean, when you look at these price numbers and stuff, you know, you look at stuff like the leader or the super class and how it went from 40 to 50. It's been a steady increase. So for Hasbro to say that there's an excuse for it, look, let's be real, guys. It's a company. They have investors they got to please. They got to meet those investors' needs and make sure that they see nice increasing numbers. And some of the easiest way to increase the numbers is to lower the cost of the product, increase the cost of the product on the consumer, and hopefully that'll balance things out and they get another gain. You know, they said, again, according to the Rooter, they did not meet, they still were in the profit margin, but they didn't meet the profit margin that they had hoped. They only saw a 1% profit. Of course, they blamed it on the virus and everything like that. But keep in mind, that could be the case, but there's a lot of other factors too that are going on behind the scenes. I don't want to get too deep in on that, but I mean, that is something to consider in the future when it comes to our product. It is going to be getting expensive in the second half of the year, according to Hasbro. Hopefully, to go on a bit of a lighter note, let's jump into some Transformers BotBots news, which is extremely unpopular, I noticed with my viewers. Apparently, a lot of people don't like BotBots. I was quite surprised. I like them just because of how unique a lot of the designs are and the trademarks and everything. So we got our first piece of new BotBots news in almost 4 to 5 months. An update on what's happening with that brand since we learned about Series 6 and all the stuff that's going on with them. We have the Transformers BotBots Ruckus Rally, which is the first time we've seen now BotBots vehicles that transform. It's very similar to that of Computer Warriors or even that of the legendary Food Fighters line back in the day. And I love what I see here. I mean, we have this little Formula One pizza slice and this flying jet, game controller. And it's pretty clear that they have some kind of a transformation system going on here. You have like the 4 pepperoni slices that pretty much dislodge from the pizza to make the wheels. And it looks like a stuffed crust pepperoni pizza. The crust becomes the spoiler for the car. And of course, the slots that the pepperoni slices would have normally sat in for the transformation now become seats for the BotBots figures. I really like what I see here. I was a big fan of the Food Fighters line back in the 90s. And this kind of like reminisces that kind of stuff for me. So I really dig that a lot. And BotBots just kind of hits all those notes of being different. Being extremely different in a time of Optimuses and Megatrons and Bumblebees and Soundwaves and all that stuff. And all those new trademarks, which I'm pretty sure most of them they're not going to keep. And maybe some of them are not even trademarked or registered. They're just one and dones like Duderoni. But we'll see what happens. Again, Hasbro said there is a TV show in the works, and it is coming hopefully before the end of this year. Maybe this is a relation to that. We shall see. We don't know much else outside of that. So stay tuned for that if you care. But from what my analytics tell me, people hate BotBots. I am surprised. Next up, we have Cyberverse stuff. So we got a whole bunch of Cyberverse listings. This is our other Transformer show we need to talk about. Also has 2 TV movies that are planned to come out before the end of the year, both of them Dinobot related or Megatron X storylines. We have all kinds of different conflicting information from leaked stuff. Nothing that Hasbro has announced officially outside of, I think, a quick blurb that there will be more Cyberverse stuff from the FanFest panel. So we got these listings from Walmart. We have a listing for a Warrior Class Season 4 Snarl, so we know that the Warrior Class price point will continue. It will still continue. And it's just going to have the Dinobots across all those different price points because Snarl is going to be the Warrior Class. If I remember correctly, Volcanicus, which is the combined mode of the Dinobots, will be the Ultimate Class, which is the most expensive price point. We already know that we're going to be getting, I believe, Slug, which is going to be Slag, is going to be in the Deluxe class, which is going to be the best one of the bunch because we know how our Deluxes are with the Cyberverse line. So again, it shows that Warrior exists, and we're still going to be getting something like that, and Snarl will be getting a figure. Hopefully, it just keeps, hopefully it keeps scale with each other because BotBots is kind of a weird line to collect. There's a lot of characters that have not the best figures, and as a result, they don't really scale with each other, and it kind of creates this weird environment. Of course, also we have a Warrior class Dead End. Dead End's another one of those characters that really his only toy was like a legend scale, and it didn't transform very well, and it doesn't really have an alt mode, so yay. Okay. I mean, he was in season 3. He was kind of predominantly featured, so if you're a fan of that character, hey, you get a better version of him. It's not the best version. It could be like a deluxe, but the Warrior is probably about as close as it's going to get in that price point and that size. Now for the roll and transform and the roll and combine gimmick. These, we didn't know what the story was going to be with these, but now we have a better idea of which characters they will feature. So we have the roll and transform Optimus Prime and the roll and transform Bumblebee. These are supposed to be some kind of, I guess you roll the character across the ground and they transform automatically. It could be a pullback. It could be similar to the G2 auto rollers. We don't know, but we know that these are coming, and it's going to be, are you excited for it? Optimus Prime and Bumblebee. Again, gimmicks. What is Cyberverse without tons of gimmicks that are going to clog the shelves? I wonder how the secondary market's going to be with those in like 10 years. Is anyone going to want that stuff? Anyone like looking for a rare one step? Like, I don't know, Jazz? Who knows? And then we have the roll and combine, which is Megatron, Bumblebee, and Wheeljack. I'm reminded of the Crash Combiners, which had that kind of roll and combine kind of gimmick where you crash 2 characters together. But those were 2 separate characters that would combine to make a giant robot. In this case, it's just a roll and combine Megatron. So maybe it's 2 different alt modes that combine to make one robot, like the dual cons. Could be. We don't know, but we'll find out soon enough. And again, it's yet another Bumblebee. It's yet another Megatron. And hey, you get the Mustachio Wheeljack this time. And the last thing to talk about is that of Project Jam that was listed there. Now, for people that aren't aware, Transformers stuff that has Project listed after it, I listed it at the bottom here. So here's the past listings that we got in the past where it was Project something. So Project Mullet was the Ectotron, which was the Ghostbusters crossover. Project Future was the Gigawatt, which was the Back to the Future crossover. Project Bird was the Ultimate Expense, which was the X-Men crossover. And Project Cruise was the Maverick, aka the Top Gun crossover. So now we have Project Jam. So, I mean, when you look at Ectotron with the mullet, I don't see the connection there unless they're trying to say that, I guess, Egon had a mullet or Bill Murray had a mullet or something. I don't know where they're going with that one. Future, obviously, for the Back to the Future thing. Bird, because it was the Blackbird that the Expanse turned into. Cruise, because it's Tom Cruise with the Maverick and Top Gun. So what would Project Jam be? I don't know. I have a few guesses. It's the bottom half there. I don't think it's going to be an Armada thing with the whole jam joke, despite what people were suggesting. But there is a movie that's going to be coming out in the future that has Jam in the name. Could be a Space Jam crossover. I know it sounds crazy, but we've seen some crazy stuff crossing over with Transformers in the past. We have Hello Kitty Transformers. We have, Star Wars Transformers. We have Marvel Transformers. We've had Disney label Transformers. We've had a Buzz Lightyear Transformer, Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck. We've had all kinds of crazy stuff. So it would not surprise me if they do maybe some kind of Warner Brothers collaboration. Maybe get a Bugs Bunny Transformer. Maybe we're going to get a LeBron James turns into a basketball Transformer like that bootleg of Yao Ming all those years ago. I think I posted that on my Twitter. It's such a weird bootleg. Could be. Again, maybe I'm wrong. Someone in the comments, I don't know. You could let me know what you think. But I mean, what else could it be that's Jam? Like that would have a real, connection. That would be, am I missing something? Is there some kind of movie that's coming out? So who knows? Who knows? But these listings are there, and it means that we're getting something. And the last thing we're going to talk about is listings that literally broke late last night, early this morning, and I'm going to cover them now. And it's a whole bunch of listings that showed up on Toys R Us Canada. These are obviously in Canadian dollars, these MSRPs, so don't freak out when you see some of these numbers. Canadian dollars translate quite poorly to an American dollar, so it's a little bit less. So we have a Transformers Generations Deluxe Alabama. Now, this is probably a code name. We don't know who it is, but we know that something is coming. I think what's happened now is there's been so many leaks in the past that I think Hasbro is now starting to implicate code names for their listings so that it doesn't reveal what the product is. Who that is, I don't know. Alabama? I don't know. I can't even think of something in Transformers that could relate to Alabama unless they're trying to, go for an accent or something, and maybe it's a character like that from the South. But there's some kind of Generation Selects Alabama coming, $29.99 Canadian. Again, Toys R Us Canada is where we get our Generation Selects, and it's slightly cheaper, obviously, in American dollars. It also shows here that T-Rex, which was going to be a Target exclusive through their Red Card exclusive gimmick, is going to be available through Canada and through Toys R Us, which is great because already it sounded like it was going to be something difficult for a lot of people to cover this. And man, like, to get that figure, and you have to have a red card and be part of Target, and that's the only way you could pick it up. And that's if you're someone in the United States who has Target. So for it to be at least, slightly more widespread available through Toys R Us Canada, and you just walk in and buy it, that's awesome. Or online and purchase it. So that's some great stuff. The next one here, we have a Transformers BB War for Cybertron Deluxe Worlds for $109, which probably still is going to break down to maybe $89.99 USD. But I mean, what is that? Is it the BB is obviously Buzzworthy Bumblebee. The Worlds part is that Worlds Collide. But at $89, how many figures are you getting there? Are you getting like a Leader class and a Voyager or something? Like, what is going on with that one? Hopefully we get more information on that. Again, we also have an Evergreen multi-pack for like $80, so that's going to probably be about $69.99. Probably 4 of the Evergreen figures that we've seen kicking around, like Barricade and Optimus Prime and Shockwave and stuff. It might be just a multi-pack of previously existing molds made for the mass audience in Toys R Us. Expanse is there. We already know what that is. A second Target Red Card exclusive at Toys R Us. That's a weird way to list it. That's stuff like that makes me really question the validity of some of these listings. But we'll find out what happens in the future, and if any. I like to show this stuff because if it is fake, the people who do list this stuff and do claim this stuff is legitimate. If it's fake, we know not to trust them in the future. Transformers BB Power, $69.99, so probably about $49.99. That's, again, Buzzworthy Bumblebee stuff. What is it? We don't know. Power might be related to the Bumblebee movie toys where it had those Power Surge figures. We got a Transformers Bumblebee, Buzzworthy Bumblebee Gen Origin for $32.99. Is this a Generation 1 kind of thing? Bumblebee Origins, is it going to be like a multi-pack Buzzworthy Bumblebee where you get a Generation 1 Bumblebee figure that's already been reissued before and a modern Bumblebee figure, maybe the Netflix version? That would be kind of cool for people. Imagine if you could get the G1 one and the Netflix one done in a more, I guess, less mustardy kind of color scheme, a more stronger yellow. People would really dig that. So if that's legit, that listing at $32.99 Canadian, or I guess $29.99 American, that should be very interesting to hear about. Then we got a Shine 2 Bumblebee at $89. I don't know what that's supposed to be. Studio Series Bumblebee Versus Pack for $59.99. Maybe a Versus Pack with Barricade, potentially. I don't know. And a Buzzworthy Bumblebee Crash for $24.99. Could it be a reissue of the Crash Combiner Robots in Disguise 2015 Bumblebee with Sideswipe, which were Crash Combiners? Could be. A lot of the Buzzworthy Bumblebee stuff is reissues, repaints, repacks. We shall see. The future is still unknown for this. And that's it for the news. We had a lot of news this week, but that's it for the news. So hope everyone was entertained with that part of it. Just want to take a moment to thank, again, my sponsor, and one of them is chilling in the back there, the plush of Starscream. We have Symbiote Studios with their plushes and their cool stuff that they send us. Be sure to check them out, symbiotestudios.com, the official licensed holder of Transformer plush pins and awesome t-shirts. I am wearing their Cat Bravo Shark t-shirt today, and of course I have one of their Autobot pins from their many different sets that they have for sale. Be sure to check them out. Again, Wave 2 is out right now with their Starscream and Grimlock, their Starscream plush and their Starscream Grimlock for $24.99. SymbioteStudios.com. And of course, like my shirt here, you could also pick up Maneater, based off of the open world RPG game by Tripwire Studios. Get the Maneater pup, $19.99. SymbioteStudios.com. If you want that Transformer flavor, get the new Starscream and the Grimlock. The Grimlock has been selling extremely well, but look at him. Isn't he adorable? Thank you, Symbiote Studios. So, let's get into stuff that we got this week. I only got one thing this week, and it was a secondary market product, and I forgot it upstairs, but it was essentially just I managed to get a loose, semi-complete Power of the Primes Voyager class Starscream. Never got it. Finally got it. Kind of missing stuff, but hey, can't argue for $1. Managed to get them cheap. I did pick these up last week, and I mentioned them on the stream last time. I got a whole bunch of these from Toys R Us because that's the only way I could get my Generation Select stuff is if they show up at Toys R Us locally for me. And essentially, I got Hubcab, I got Zetar, and I got Nightbird. And I'll be honest with you, like, Nightbird, if you were following my Twitter, I was posting images of all of these and comparing them with some of their older versions. Nightbird, if you could get that Legends Sakamoto version, it's probably the better one. Zetar's pretty cool, and it's probably, I don't know when we're ever going to see a version of this character ever again. This is probably going to be like it for a while, of that old Power Dasher. So this is pretty cool. Very happy to pick him up. And probably my favorite of the bunch. Didn't expect him to be my favorite of the bunch. And again, it's one of those, like, probably going to be the best version of this character for a long while. And it's that of Hubcap. I really like that he could split his guns and stuff. He looks really cool. I dig him a lot. And I mean, I think he's pretty much peaked for how good this character could get. And if you looked at my Twitter posts and on my Instagram, for people who don't know, I have one of those too. It looks like there's a good flavor of different kinds of Hubcap figures throughout the years, and now that one I think is just the bee's knees. Just looks really good. But I would suggest again for the Nightbird, get the Legends one. The Hubcap's probably the best version of it, and Zetar, I mean, he's had 2 toys, so technically 3 if you do the Sakamoto Creo Custom, which I did in my Twitter, which is based off of his manga version of him, which you need to own one of the Computron pieces in order to have the drill, but that's a whole other story. Either way. So, let's jump into some Super Chat questions, take some questions from the audience. We still have plenty of time tonight after all of that news and everything, and we'll just chill. We'll just chill and relax and enjoy everything that's been going on in the world today of Transformers. It's been a very busy news week. I'm quite surprised considering that, like, last week it was a pretty quiet news week. I was very lucky though, because despite it being a quiet news week, I got Unicron, so that kind of balanced out the conversation in a lot of ways. We had stuff that we could talk about, at least in the case of Unicron, and you know, how I have the upgrade kit where you could do the 2 different molds that were done by Mikey and Louie, and you could actually pick up their stuff now. It's part of Cybertron Surgery, so you could pick up their sets and everything, and enjoy all that crazy stuff that they're doing. If you manage to get a Unicron somehow, if you manage to get one, again, I do not. I keep looking over at it, and I have it in both modes, but it's like, I don't suggest it for $600 or more. Like, guys, it's it's not what I would suggest. He's a good $400. If you have $400 to burn, which you would probably be spending on like a good masterpiece or something, but $600, no. I don't know. I just wasn't feeling that. So Alex wants to know, Dear Proto, what is your opinion on the Nick Wrecker's trilogy? I really liked it primarily because Nick's goal with that was, you know, well, just to dial it back, you know, the Wreckers, even when it was Simon Furman, was to really take toys that didn't have a lot of character development and stuff. Yeah, there was a few characters that were part of the records that were well known, but in general, toys that just didn't have a lot of character development and really flesh it out. And Nick's Wreckers did that even more so. And, you know, being Nick Roche and, you know, also James, which was involved with that book, where there's a lot of stakes at hand. I don't want to spoil too much because there's always people that didn't read those books, but there's a lot of stakes at hand, and, you know, anyone could die. It's just, it's a really good series of books, really good art. Nick's a cool dude, and I like him a lot. I like them a lot. A lot of good designs came out of those too, because of the way that Nick draws Transformers. There was a lot of cool designs that came out of it that unfortunately haven't really. I mean, I guess the Springer probably kind of got done, but a lot of the others really didn't get toys, which is kind of a shame considering how much that book is liked by people. So definitely check it out if you get a chance. It's one of those books that you don't really need to know what's really going on in the Transformer world from a context standpoint. You could really just jump in. Even the human element of it, which again I don't want to really get too much into it, but even the human element of it, it's something where I would suggest like you don't need to read up on a whole bunch of devastation and escalation and all those early IDW books that, I'll be honest with you, were not really that great. They weren't really that good, a lot of those books. They were kind of paint by numbers, so it's kind of a long read to really get to know those. I think like a lot of those IDW books didn't really start to get good until we got to some of those spotlight books, but that's just me personally. I've personally like, what I like in terms of Transformer fiction sometimes is very different than what other people enjoy. Probably because I've seen everything, so I just always kind of like to have stuff that's different or fleshes out characters more. And less of that human element. Downright Superb wants to know, could we have gotten Beast Wars figures of this caliber 10 years ago? Totally. I 100% believe that. I think that modern engineering makes it possible to compare Kingdom to Universe Dinobot. Well, I think it also has to do with the design team also. There's certain goals that certain design teams have, and it's not really, I think, the budget or the engineering so much as who was doing what and who was assigned to what jobs at that time. We don't know 100% what every Transformer was made by who, so we could see those aesthetic differences. It's kind of in the same way that Shogo Hasui, when he was doing the Masterpiece line in, I think it was like 2011, 2012, and we got all those like perfect Autobot cars, whether it be like Sideswipe and Wheeljack and the Datsuns and stuff like that. Those were all great, and they were all very affordable, and that was when Shogo Hasui was doing Masterpiece. And it really showed that certain engineers could lead to very certain aesthetics. And of course, Shogo Hasui also did the MP10, which a lot of people loved for many, many years, as opposed to MP1 that had come out, I want to say it was, like almost 9 years prior to that. Probably something like that. But yeah, I think it could have been done. It really has to do with whoever was doing it at the time, whoever worked on that Dinobot. And that Dinobot was, I think it was a good effort, but keep in mind it was also a deluxe price point. So there was the limitations of the budget there too. I'm pretty sure if it was a Voyager like we have with our current Kingdom Dinobot, it probably would have turned out a lot better like what our Thrilling 30 Rhinox is. Because I'll be honest with you, I think the Rhinox from Thrilling 30 aesthetically and engineering-wise looks better than what we got from Kingdom right now. That's just my opinion. But I think, so it's apples and oranges. It's really who worked on what. There's some really talented people that work at Takara and Hasbro in terms of design and engineering. And some of them really have a deep understanding of shifting pieces and really getting that aesthetic. But they also sometimes they could be a really good designer, But if they're capped by the limitation of a price point, there's only so much they could do. And even the amazing price points of back in the day, back in like 2009, 2010 with Universe 2.0, which I think Transformer budget was probably at its peak at the time, consider at a price point. Like you could get the most out of a deluxe, you could get the most out of this. There still was the limitations of still being a deluxe. You know, there's always stuff like that all the time. Michael wants to know, what is your take on the X-Men crossover figure? I got him half off at Target. Yeah, we talked about that on our Discord, about how Target right now has X-Pants for 50% off. I do not have that figure. I'd like to own it at 50% off, but I haven't seen it 50% off around here. I ain't going to pay like, oh God, I think in Canadian it almost comes to $100. I ain't going to pay $100 for a Studio Series Jetfire retool that turns into Cyclops in a lot of ways. It's cool, but it's not $100 Canadian cool. I'd pay that 50% off a lot more. I'd live with that a lot better. Maybe if I ever see it cheap in the future, I'll pick it up. It's probably one of the weakest of the bunch of the crossover stuff thus far. I really feel that that when you get to stuff like, let's say, Gigawatt, which I think was a home run, and even the Maverick one, I don't, it's expensive, the Maverick, but I don't hate it. Like I like what they tried to do there with Maverick, so it kind of really led to stuff being pretty interesting. Eastman with the super chat, Eastman777. Thank you, Eastman, for the super chat. Thanks for getting us through this pandemic. Other than eBay, what Transformer sites do you recommend to certify quality? Well, I don't know about quality. Transformerland is a good website when you're looking for pieces and parts. But me personally, and this has always been kind of like my go-to, and it's even before eBay. eBay is actually a second resort. My first go-to is, and it sounds so simple, go to tfw2005.com, go to their advanced search function on their forum, highlight their buy, sell, trade forum, and type in what you're looking for. Most of the time, you're going to find somebody that's selling what you're looking for probably cheap because they bought it, they opened it, and they go, eh. And because they're not dealing with eBay fees, because it's being done directly, one for one, they're just dealing with PayPal fees at best, or maybe an e-transfer. It's usually the better way. A lot of some of my more difficult to find items that I was looking for, I found that way instead of going to eBay, where eBay, sometimes you have guys that, like, if they know they're the only guy that has this loose figure, they're going to put it up $10 more than it needs to be. So that's probably one of my favorite ways to find product, is to use TFW's search function of their buy, sell, trade forum. There is constantly, no joke, if you go to that forum every single day, there's someone who's unloading their hobby. There's always someone that's like, I need room for a baby room. I need room for a wedding. I need room for bills. I need room for, whatever it is. And because that's the case, there's always someone that's like, you'll be surprised, like, wow, this guy just bought all of Kingdom and now he's selling it all at 50% the price because he needs the money. And if you're someone who's like, man, I really want to get Rat Trap, the core class, but I don't want to pay full price, and this guy's asking $3 for it plus shipping, like $10 shipped, let's say, that's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome when you really think about it. Especially if you're someone who has been complaining about how, like, oh my God, I can't find anything in retail, nothing is getting stocked, they're scalpers, now you have that opportunity because of these websites. And I find that for most Americans, TFW 2005 is the way to go. If you're someone who's more foreign, I would still suggest TFW 2005, because then you could do searches by certain users. And those users, if they come from locations close to you, then you could see if they've been selling product, if they have a thread. And then you could see, oh, this guy that's like, just the town next to me, he's selling stuff, and let's see what he got. And that always works out. That always works out, and I find it's one of the best ways to buy. eBay is good too, but I find that eBay has been increasing their fees more and more, and as a result, it's creating a secondary market on there that is very bloated, because stuff that's like MSRP $29.99, you have guys asking $40 because they know that even if they sell it for 40, eBay's going to take 11%. And then they make very little in profit. And then it gets to that point where, God forbid, they screw up on shipping and they undercharge on shipping. And then, there's PayPal fees. Like, before you know it, you're making like $3 on the item, even though you sold it for 40. And it's just like, what was the point? So eBay is really not the best place to... eBay, to me, and I've said this for years, eBay is where you go when you want to buy rare stuff. And when I mean rare stuff, I mean like con exclusives, BotCon exclusives, TFCon exclusives, super rare items, old G1 vintage. That's kind of where you go, because they know that it's a bigger net where you could cast that stuff. But when you're talking like more common stuff, or you're looking just to get some new stuff cheap, always go to the forums. Always do that. It's the best way to go about it. But again, thank you for the question, Eastman. Hope we learned something from that. We got one here. Hey, Proto, how long does it take? Do you think the TF brand could keep going without increasing with these increased prices? Well, I've had these discussions many times in private, where it's also the race against inflation, which is, and I still don't believe inflation is 100% the cause, but it is a small percentage of it, which is, it's the race against inflation. And it's an argument that I have many times with different people, because they need to understand that when we live in a world where there's hyperinflation, but their own base paychecks, meaning their own money that they make as an individual, doesn't inflate with it, you feel that squeeze, especially if, I've given the example, if you make X amount of money, for 10 years straight, and your boss never gave you a raise, and the world keeps moving forward without you. Like, if you make $20 an hour, and that's like, if you're working a very good job and you make $20 an hour, and then you say to yourself, wow, I make $20 an hour, but your boss never gave you a raise for 10 years, that $20 an hour of buying power has changed so much in those 10 years, because, I just showed before with the price listings here, like from 2007, 2009, up until, like, let's say 2019, which is like pretty much the beginning of Earthrise and Kingdom, a deluxe has doubled in price. It went from 10 to 23, even 17, let's say, if you want to say 2015. So if you didn't get a raise in 10 years because you're in that higher tier echelon of pay, you're going to feel a difference of your buying power. Now, obviously, for individuals that work minimum wage, one way to circumvent that is you change your job. And I don't like to talk about this too much because people have different living situations and conditions, and it's not always easy for them. But I always say that, some people, I'll give my own example. Back in the day, young proto man, still in college, I worked at Burger King. And I worked at that Burger King for 5 years. And in those 5 years, I got a raise once a year. But because of inflation, I always got bumped. It's like, oh, I got a 15-cent raise. Minimum wage increased 15 cents. So I'm still back at zero. So even though I got raises constantly, minimum wage and inflation kept increasing, so I was back at zero. But at least I was getting a raise every year, so at least I was kind of keeping up with inflation. Even though if I was kind of like a hamster in a wheel, I was getting nowhere. I wasn't making more money, even though I was getting raises. I was just kind of just staying in the middle. So it's it's difficult. People will be able to keep up, but they got to make sure that their paychecks keep up too. And I'm not saying like you got to live the life of Transformers and you got to make sure you can only buy Transformers, but it's something that you got to consider that too. You got to manage your money properly when it comes to your hobby. And then you get into that X factor that I can't give advice on, which is that's between you and your job and your lifestyle and, how much you get paid and, where you are in your career, where you are in your job. There's, I've always told people, don't spend money you don't got. Don't spend money you don't got. There's too many times I've seen guys who unload their collection because they're spending money they don't have. way too many times. Or they have a kid and then they realize that, having kids is expensive. And that changes things too. Diapers are not cheap, unless you do cloth diapers, but, it's a whole other story. I hope that answers your question. Michael Koo wants to know with the super chat. Thank you, Michael. You're always awesome with the super chat questions. Michael wants to know, Protoman, can TF-86 Ultra Magnus be made into Kingdom Ultra Magnus, or is a new mold needed? I assume you're referring to the original 1986 Ultra Magnus toy can be made into Kingdom Ultra Magnus, or is a new mold needed? I guess you're referring to you want to really get that design, because we got that with Kingdom. I guess I need more information, Michael, unless I'm missing something here. I really think, I guess unless you're referring to an aesthetic, I think Studio Series 86 Ultra Magnus will happen one day, and it'll be way more accurate to how it looks in the movie. Get that Robert Stack gorgeousness. And I think that what we got in Kingdom right now is kind of just, it's just what we have right now for fictional reasons. Let's put it this way. And we'll see what comes of that in the future. But thank you for the super chat question, Michael. You're always super supportive. Thank you. Where are we at? I'll grab one at random here. Which voice actor do you prefer for Cup? I grew up on the 86 movie, so Lionel Standard. I actually have his autograph. I have his autograph on the wall over there. But I got it after he passed away. He's pretty good. He's probably my favorite Cup. But, there's not many versions of Cup, unfortunately. You pretty much have the Cyberverse one had speaking lines. Obviously, the Season 3 version had speaking lines, which I wasn't too much of a fan of. I wasn't too much of a fan of how a lot of characters were depicted in Season 3 from a voice acting standpoint. Obviously, Neil Ross still did a good job with, Springer, and RC was still a good job from Sue Blue. But I don't know, I felt like, Blur wasn't as good. Maybe it's the audio engineering because it was a movie as opposed to a television series, but I don't know, I just wasn't feeling it. I'll go with the original 86 Cup. It's where it's at, man. Fix me. Hey, Proto, I know you got quite a history with your career with Hasbro. Well, not a whole career with Hasbro. I did some stuff here and there, specifically copyright stuff and with fun publications. I would absolutely love to contribute to some of the Transformers brands someday. How would one break into that job? Well, it depends on what you want to do. That's a very wide question. I've had this question asked a lot. Do you want to do writing? I wish I had packaging here, but stuff that's this is the worst example, but copyright, which is usually if there's a tech spec, there's copyright, which is tech spec stories, if there's blurbs, stuff like that. So that would be copyright and writing. Then you have design, if you want to design the figures and engineer them, which Aaron Archer's in the chat here. He was the senior design manager for Hasbro for quite a while for the Transformer brand. So, he's someone who he started off as just, a comic book drawing kind of dude, just like drawing, if anything else. So it really depends how you want to tackle it. And then from there, you kind of, it really depends, because to be up, and keep in mind too, this is another thing also that people need to understand. When you go to Hasbro and you apply for a job, they don't necessarily are going to put you with Transformers. You might your goal might be to do design for Transformer toys, but you might apply at Hasbro and they go, hey, we need you for the My Little Pony division, or for the for the Play-Doh division or something. And sometimes people, obviously if you could make a suggestion, but at the end of the day, you have something where you might not always get what you want. Okay, so here, toy design would be my main interest, but writing would be awesome too. Well, again, you have to be someone that shows that you could do toy design. If you're good at drawing, if you have good at doing designs, especially now having knowledge in something like CAD and shape waves and all kinds of stuff like that, doing 3D printing, having that kind of knowledge and background, understanding space awareness, when it comes to Transformer toys, especially having a portfolio that shows you could do that kind of stuff. Because the reality is that there's been former designers at Hasbro that have gone on to do third-party stuff because they have the skills and the engineering and the talents. And then you have guys that have worked on third-party that have ended up working for Hasbro afterwards in the same kind of vein, specifically in the Asian region, because the talent is there. So, but that being said, you don't always get to choose where you want to be. So there's the strong chance that you might end up not getting on the Transformer brand, number one. You might end up working on G.I. Joe. And number two, even if you do get on the Transformers brand, they might put you in a part of the brand that you might not want to work on. Like if you're someone who's like, oh, I really want to work on that War for Cybertron, adult brand kind of stuff, and they put you with, BotBots or maybe a Bumblebee Movie 2 kind of simplistic toy line. It's not the easiest thing to kind of pursue. Even my luck getting those opportunities were more so because of the people I knew. It was more that I knew the right people. They knew what I knew. They knew what I was capable of, and they kind of greased the wheels for me for those opportunities. And as a result, I got to work on some stuff, which was pretty cool. And I'm grateful for those opportunities, Jesse and Pete and everybody who gave me those opportunities. And I hope I didn't fail them. But it's something that you have to build your craft first before you even think about where the end game is right away. That's something that I'm pretty sure in the future when I do another podcast with certain somebody that's in the chat here, we might flesh that out more, because it's a very common question I get from a lot of people. Some people want to break in the comic book industry. Ask me that question too, because I wrote a lot of comic books in the past. So we shall see. We got another super chat question from Michael Koo. Speaking of Transformers, the movie, how expensive would it be to create the deleted scenes from the existing storyboards? Well, if you want to do it like the original movie, which was using celluloids and cells, considerably expensive. Because a lot of 2D animation today is done with flash animation. And probably if they, let's say for fun, they wanted to recreate those deleted scenes, they probably would do it that way. They would do it with flash animation. Derek Wyatt, I believe it was TFCon 2010, I want to say. I think it was TFCon 2010. He said that Transformers Animated was one of the last few Transformers series that was really drawn, and then like they didn't do cells, but they drew it first, and they kind of like they would scan those drawings and then do flash animation kind of stuff on top of it and work with flash, and then the rest was history from that. And it was kind of one of the last shows to do that, because after Transformers Animated, then we went into Transformers Prime, and then we went into Robots in Disguise 2.0 and Cyberverse, which is the CG that we have today. All the CG stuff we're used to now. I would love that, primarily because it shows the fate of a lot of characters that we didn't know what happened to them. Like there's that famous scene where like Ultra Magnus shows up, and then he shoots all his missiles, and then Devastator's there, and it shows how Devastator breaks apart, and he doesn't stay as Devastator, but he obviously took out a couple of some of the key season 2 characters. Maybe I don't want to spoil it, because it kind of it says what happens to Trax and Smokescreen and some of those other characters, and why we never saw them again, at least in what iteration. So I'd love to see those. Same thing, Death of Optimus Prime, the Optimus Prime battle with Megatron. There was a lot of cool cutscenes that made Optimus pretty badass in it. It's a lot of cool stuff. I'd love to see it, but it would be expensive if you wanted to do it traditionally, like how it was before. Cell animation is just not favored anymore because it is so expensive to do. It's extremely time consuming, and it's why cells today are so valuable, because of the whole process, because celluloid is so expensive, the material that cells are made on, that they used to like pretty much make a scene, do all the cell stuff with it, and then they clean the cells clean and then reuse them and recycle them again to make other animations. That way it could be cheaper, because it was so expensive back in the day. Disney cells are notorious for that. If you could find animation cells of Disney stuff from back in the day, you're talking thousands of dollars, because they were notorious for recycling their cells because of how expensive it was and how many different emotions they had with their stuff. Transformers also, a lot of the Korean stuff, which is Sunbow and everything, were notorious for that too. So a lot of those cells are tough to get. The Japanese stuff's a little different. They actually keep a lot of their cells and they put them out there for the fandom. So like Beast Wars Second cells, Beast Wars Neo cells, which are one of the last animated Transformer series is using cell animation. You could find those still pretty affordably. You know, they've become more expensive in the recent years, but I remember like in the early 2000s, you could pick up like some really nice cells for like about 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks and own a piece of history. Last cell I bought actually was Metal Hawk from episode 1 of Master Force. I bought it from Tony for quite a sum. I think about $190 I spent on it, but own a piece of history. Gotta love it. Where are we at here? Where are we at? Proto, I think the only way that those deleted scenes could get animated if they got a special set during the movie. Well, I've noticed that we get a special set of Transformer movie stuff. I think it was every 5 years now. Every 5 years we get a new box set or a new something of the 86 movie. So who knows? Maybe one day a bunch of super dedicated fans will remake it, and then they could kind of work out a deal with whoever owns the printing publishing of Transformer media, because now Shout Factory no longer has the DVD/Blu-ray publishing rights anymore. That ends as of this year. So whoever has it in the future, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. What mold do you think the rumored Shattered Glass Soundwave will use? Rumor has stated that it'll include his cassettes. Would you rather see a Shattered Glass Starscream or a Soundwave? Soundwave, if they did do something, I've kind of... See, here's the thing. The logic is it's got to be a Voyager, because it has to have something that's going to be accompanying that Siege Megatron in the case. So Soundwave, if it's a Voyager, it's going to have to be one of his pre-existing molds then, whether it be the Siege one or the Earthrise one. If I had a choice and it wasn't related to case assortments, I like that deluxe Ironhide mold. And I think you could really do something with that, because that would invoke more what the original Shattered Glass Soundwave was. He didn't have the cassette gimmick in his chest. He was... I own that original toy. He's a van. And granted, they did do a Shattered Glass Soundwave box set using the G1 mold and the blaster mold. It was a BotCon store exclusive. But, I mean, when I think of Shattered Glass with the headband and everything, I think of that van version instead. So I think of that one. But the real thing is that it's going to have to be a Voyager, because there has to be someone that's accompanying that Megatron. Although, who knows? Maybe the Jetfire that we think is going to be a Commander class, maybe it'll be a Voyager. Who knows? We're going to find out soon in the future. This is all just early speculation based on very little that we know right now from the brand and, listings at best right now. Hey, Proto, how likely is a reissue of RID 2001 Optimus, Megatron, and Ultra Magnus? We actually got reissues of the Fire Convoy and God Magnus of Robots in Disguise 2001, aka Car Robots. We got that 2 years ago? 3 years? No. The big V is making me screw up my dates. I'd have to say about 3 years ago we got that reissue set. And they had better paint scheme. It looked more show accurate and stuff. It got rid of the chrome, which was always chipping on that original mold. So there was reissues of it. As for the Gigatron mold, it's still kicking around. They could reissue it if they want, but bad guy characters just don't sell as well. So it's hard to say if they'd want to do a reissue of that. The last time we got that mold was BotCon 2016. So it does show that it's still kicking around. It still could be used. The question is there a market for it? Would someone want to buy that? Robots in Disguise, amazingly, and this information comes directly from Aaron Archer's interview with a Japanese magazine about Armada, was Robots in Disguise actually didn't sell very well in the Western market. So that Megatron I don't know. There's a lot of them kicking around though, so I don't even think you would need a reissue for that Megatron. I see tons of them at TF cons and stuff like that. A lot of them though, unfortunately, are sometimes missing their feet, which makes like the dragon heads. But I mean, they're still kicking around. I think I have one, even an extra one. I have to check. I haven't gone into my inventory in 2 years since all this craziness. Usually I do it at my parts parties and I have a chance to look through that stuff. Wasn't the first one the repurposed music label Soundwave? I don't count stuff that TF Wiki does. TF Wiki repurposes all kinds of stuff all the time. It's like, oh, this is actually repurposed as, you know, Sideburn when he was in Generation 1 and he went super mode. You know, like, I don't know. I'm not gonna talk about some of the stupidity that happens on the wiki. How would you have written a Christmas episode of the 80s for Transformers? The closest we ever got was Fire in the Sky, and that was the only snow episode, so it's hard to say with that one, unfortunately. I don't know. It's there's a lot of layers to that, and if I get paid, I'll let you know. We got a super chat question from Michael for... Oh, it just says Michael. Just Michael. Michael wants to know, what if we think it's a Jetfire, but it's really a Starscream because of Jetfire's colors? Yeah, well, that, you know, Shatterglass Starscream was Jetfire colors, but it's because the listing that was leaked supposedly says Jetfire. But I agree with you. It would be cool if it was just it's just what it is, you know. I mean, we'll see what happens. Jetfire again. What else could he be? Like, you know, let's say, like, what other, like, are they going to take the Starscream mold and do something? Like, what else is there really of like that bubble of Siege and Earthrise molds that turns into like planes and stuff that could be different, you know? Let's see. Burrow Man roasts the TF Wiki on stream. Hey, look, I love some of the guys who work on the TF Wiki, but a lot of that information is kind of off sometimes. They are so behind on some of the stuff that they report. Like a lot of they have some of their articles need to be updated big time. Like, there's just so much missing information, and I ain't gonna do it. I ain't getting paid to do that. There's enough suckers on that wiki that work for free on there, and a certain somebody who owns it gets paid big money. But that's none of my business. Proto, how much animation cell featuring both Optimus and Rodimus together from Headmasters would be worth? If you're referring to episode 4, Birth of Double Convoy, it would be worth a lot of money. I'll tell you that much. It'd be worth a lot of money. Japanese animation cells from the Headmaster era are pretty rare to come by. Any of the G1 animation cells are pretty tough. They're pretty tough. And when you're talking 86 movie cells, then you hit into that like really, really rare, and some of them are $500 to $1,000. I know there was a cell of Unicron that popped up not too long ago. It went for like $1,400. Not cheap. Not cheap at all. Not cheap at all. Hey, Brodo, do you think there will be a Kingdom Wave 4? Because I checked the listings and it said there was no core class, leader class, or fossilizers in Wave 4 of Kingdom. We don't know. We don't know. We don't really have an official 100% indication of what's happening with Wave 3. And if that'll be the end. You know, like we're still pretty in the dark with a lot of stuff. It's funny because in a world today where I would figure that Hasbro would take advantage of all these people at home and have a greater relationship with their audience and do a lot of these, you know, like Fan First Fridays and everything like that, or Transformer Tuesdays, I would hire someone. I would, no joke, if I was Hasbro, I would hire someone to just be their social media guy, to have that connection with the fans, to get people excited about the product. I would do that for them if they wanted to, but I mean, the only problem is I might be a little too real with some of the products. You know, like sometimes some things just don't add up. But I just feel that, you know, they should really have someone that could be an olive branch in a lot of ways, that could share that kind of stuff and keep people. I mean, I've said this before on many streams, Cyberverse, like they don't let us know anything about Cyberverse. Like we find out about Cyberverse stuff by going to the stores. It's like we learned about the second wave, the second like set of deluxe Cyberverse figures when they showed up in retail. A Target employee just took a photo of it in the stock room, and there had never been a official press announcement. And this is supposed to be your TV series that's on TV that's going to get all these fresh eyeballs, and there's no talk about it. Come on, guys, you got to get up. You know, you got to be on top of that. You know, you want to build a new audience and get new eyes and sell your product. Got to be on top of that stuff. I understand that Kingdom is popular and it's doing well and has an adult market that is more focused on that kind of stuff. But you got to still focus on some of that other stuff too, because you have more than one brand. What's happening with BotBots? You know, you guys put all this time and effort into BotBots, and you have a TV series coming. What's happening with it? You know, there's a whole world going on there. Tommy Green with the super chat question. Thank you, Tommy. Do you ever see Hasbro going back to their old ways? Will Hasbro ever look at third-party designs or others to buy and sell designs like they did, like when they started? Well, the thing is that again, that falls back onto the team that they had before. The team that they had before was Aaron Archer was the senior design manager of all the dudes for the Transformer brand between 2001 and 2012, if I remember correctly. That's the exact timeline before John came in. And they had a different approach. They had a different approach to things. They had a different way of doing things. Stuff were more fresher, in my opinion. Look, there's a lot of good stuff here today also. There's a lot of really good stuff that we get from the brand, but there's also a lot of sameness. So it really is something where the only way we could see, because you're asking like, will they go back to their old ways? Well, the question is, would they go back to the way that they were back in that era of, let's say, 2001 to 2012 during a different design brand manager? Well, right now, like, here's the thing. What we've had since 2012 till now was John Warden's era and everything that John did and John's style. So if you liked Combiners and Headmasters and an attempt at Pretender shells, you know, if you liked Beast Wars and Titan class stuff and everything like that, that's kind of John's era, you know? So if you liked that stuff, that's John's stuff. Now we're leaving the John era, which is going to pretty much end with Kingdom, and we're entering the Lenny era. And Lenny's the new design brand manager. And we're going to see what Lenny does. And is Lenny going to be more like the old stuff, you know, that 2000 upward era with Aaron Archer? Is he going to be more like what John Warden was doing in 2012 upward? Keep in mind, before Aaron Archer took over, it was like the Transformers was still under that Kenner brand, because Beast Wars was Kenner more or less up until about 98, 99. So that was like a whole other thing too, where Beast Wars was not even under the Hasbro emblem for like half of its run back in the 90s. So it's something that we're going to see what Lenny does with the brand, and it'll really give us an indication of how Lenny wants that brand to move forward from a design standpoint, from an idea standpoint. And it's not just one man, keep in mind too. It's a conglomeration of a lot of different ideas of different things, having discussions with, obviously, with Takara and their market, because what they make also has to be sold in the Japanese market and has to make sense for them. So, you know, certain figures and certain characters just have to have synergy with both markets. Usually, not always, but usually. Sometimes certain figures just don't make it to those markets. Good example, BotBots. No Japanese market. You know, it's not out there in the Japanese market. We'll see if it'll be... We will see. We will see. We will see. Michael Koo wants to know... Thank you, Michael, for the super chat question. Proto-Man, back in the Beast Wars days, how different was Kenner from Hasbro? Was Kenner more innovative? Did Kenner take more risks? Well, this was actually going to be a discussion I was going to have at some point in the future, because it was a listener chat question, but I'll cover it here too, at least in a small form. When Kenner got the Transformer brand, it was in a really weird place. Like, Hasbro had Transformers during Generation 2, 93 to 95. And it just didn't do well. And there's a lot of things that hurt G2. G2 debuted in 93, but a certain Mighty Morphin dudes debuted in 93 that had transforming robots that combine. And they kind of became a worldwide phenomenon in that 93, 94 year. So needless to say, G2 didn't start off on a good foot. They really didn't. G2 started out pretty rough because no one cared about G2 when Power Rangers was a thing. And as it continued, then you had the Toy Biz boom, and Toy Biz was just rocking it with the X-Men stuff. It was just, it wasn't a good time to be Transformers. And that's when Hasbro's like, man, we're done. Here, Kenner, our sister company, you figure it out. I wish I had, I don't have some carded Beast Wars stuff nearby, but it's it was Beast Wars, Transformers. Transformers was a whole other different story. Yeah, and Tom, I'm a little tired today. I had a busy day today. I actually showered even before the stream because I was just so tired. I was like, oh man, after I'm done, I'm going to crash. As I was saying, it's just, they had a whole different mindset, Kenner. And the rumors are, and it's been confirmed recently because of all this found conversation and design papers and stuff that I think Allspark first posted it, that McDonald's was a big turning factor with Beast Wars too. Because what happened was so Kenner had the brand, and they were going to do something with Transformers, and at the same time they were talking with McDonald's to do their first ever mass release Transformers promotion in McDonald's. Because up to that point, McDonald's was killing it with their fast food promotions. Their Power Ranger, the movie one, was awesome. Their Marvel stuff was awesome. They did a Batman the Animated Series one, was awesome. McDonald's was killing it in the 90s. And so, here's Kenner, we're going to do something Transformers. And they did these back and forth of ideas. Oh, maybe we do these vehicle stuff. Maybe we do this robot stuff and everything. And McDonald's really liked the Beast Wars stuff. Well, not the Beast Wars stuff, the Beast stuff. They really liked this idea of Prowl turning into, a Black Panther, and Optimus Prime turning into a Manta Ray, and Megatron turning into this Stag Beetle kind of thing. Or a Gattack Beetle, excuse me. So it really showed that there was an interest, and obviously in the, how things evolve over time, those McDonald's figures ended up not being Optimus, Megatron, Prowl, and I guess Rhino was Ironhide. I don't know who Rhino was supposed to be. But they ended up just becoming these generic characters, but it drove them in that direction of what would become Beast Wars. And McDonald's was a big turning point because they were, if you were a kid in the 90s, McDonald's toys were freaking awesome. And they were a big part of the toy market. If not, they are without a doubt probably the number one distributor of toys in the world. There's probably more McDonald's toys sold than any action figure at Walmart or Toys R Us or Target or anything. So they were, and in the 90s, they were a big deal. A big, big deal. If there's a top 10 McDonald's toy lines, most of them are from the 90s. And it's not just a biased or anything. It's just there was a lot of great stuff. So it's not that they took more risks, to go back to your question, Michael. It's that Transformers was in such a weird place. How could you not take a risk? Because G2 was pretty much doing G1. It was Optimus Prime, it was Megatron, it was Devastator, it was Starscream, it was Jazz, it was Bumblebee. It was doing the same thing. And they didn't have a movie. They didn't have a TV series. They just repurposed the G1 episodes with the cybernetic space cube. So it didn't work out. And they had a comic book done by Simon Furman, and it was the G2 comic book at a time when the comic book boom had already bust. 91 brought X-Men Jim Lee #1, and by 93 the comic book industry was in turmoil. So for them to debut a comic book with a chrome cover, special edition G2 #1 at a time when the comic book industry was in its downturn, wasn't going to go well. a lot of factors went against Generation 2. So going into Beast Wars, Beast Wars was one of these things where it's like there wasn't a comic book. They didn't want to take that risk. Comic book industry was in the crapper, but they were going to do video games. They were going to do like all kinds of puzzles, action figures, and they had this state-of-the-art virgin animation that was happening, which was CG animation. And that was a big deal. That was a big, big, big deal. And because that was such a big deal, it really changed the game. I firmly believe if Beast Wars would have been an animated series like 2D animation like G.I. Joe Extreme or Ghostbusters Extreme, which were other stuff that were doing a similar thing from the Kenner Hasbro bubble of the Power Block in the 90s, I don't think Beast Wars would have been successful because G.I. Joe Extreme wasn't successful, because Ghostbusters Extreme wasn't successful. Vortech, which was Hasbro's updated version of Mask, was not successful. So much not successful that the episodes are lost media. That's how bad that is. Try to find old episodes of Vortech. And I firmly believe that the CG was a game changer. It looked different. It was coming off of Toy Story, which changed the game on what people expected of children's media. And Beast Wars looked beautiful. I don't care what anyone says. Back in the day, it was gorgeous. And I still firmly believe it. Most of it holds up today. So, it is what it is, but it's awesome. So I firmly believe that it's not that they took risks, is that they really kicked butt, so to speak. And they really did everything great. I'm so sad that I just got into Transformers. It's never too late, man. It is never too late. Look, some people of my generation say that I started late. I got into Transformers with the 86 movie back in 1986, already after Generation 1 was on its way down. So some people say that I started late. Well, I think I caught up. It's never too late, my friend. There's always a way to continue and find some enjoyment in the hobby. Transformers is such a diverse brand. There's so many ways to enjoy it. There's so many ways to consume it. There's so many characters of different backgrounds. And more importantly than anything, everything that has existed of the past, comic books, animations, movies, TV series, it's all out there to find very easily. It's not the 90s where the only way you could watch Generation 1 was buying bootlegged VHS copies off of eBay for $200, across 18 tapes, which was a real thing back in the day. So you have a lot ahead of you, Michael, but at the same time, I think you're lucky because there's so much to enjoy that you'd be enjoying for the first time. Should I go to prom or buy Transformers? Why not do both? I went to prom with a pretty girl, and I bought Transformers in high school. But I was lucky. I had a very cool high school. So do both, my friend. Do both. And prom isn't that expensive. But Transformers you could buy whenever. But prom you only get once. Unless you fail. Then you get to do prom again, I guess. Michael Koo says, Protoman, thanks for doing the live stream tonight, despite how tired you are. Thank you, Michael, for the super chat. Hey, I'm a little exhausted today, but I mean, I didn't want to miss the stream, hang out with you dudes, and talk Transformers. And we had some good news this week to go over and everything, so there's a lot of cool stuff. We actually have only half an hour left. I'm surprised the stream has been flying pretty quickly. Hey, Proto, unrelated to Transformers, but Formula One race tomorrow. Are you watching? Yes, I am. And I actually just recently learned. So I live in Montreal, and Montreal for almost 50 years has been the host of the Canadian Formula One. And I never miss it. They just announced for the second time in a row the Canadian Formula One is canceled. So I will be having no Formula One here in Montreal during the summer of July, unfortunately, like we normally do. Thank you, Big V. But it is what it is. Life moves on. I'll get another opportunity to watch my beautiful fast Formula One cars. Prom, it lasts one night. TF is forever. Yeah, but I wouldn't miss prom. I wouldn't miss prom. You never know. I know people that went to prom and met someone at prom. Two single people go to prom and then they hook up. So you never know. Take that one night out of the year to dress nice, look good, and maybe slow dance with someone that you never thought you would have before that night is over. What's up, Jason? So Red Bull is going crazy. Yeah, it is. They are reborn. Roborn. It looked like reborn. Roborn. Yeah, they are. They're killing it. Imagine. Red Bull, of all people. What a world we live in, where an energy drink is killing it over the car companies. Hey, Proto, we get all Shattered Glass figures into 100 of them. Okay. Where are we at here? Gonna grab another rando question. Jason, do you got a question? Jason's here today. Jason's one of our cool dudes of the Slag inner circle. Will you get an Optimus Prime that transforms will you get the Optimus Prime that transforms itself? Yeah, when it's like $100. I don't know. You know what? I have I have 3 different Masterpiece Optimus Primes, all 3 different versions. I have all the different Optimus Primes throughout the years. Am I going to spend like $700 plus tax plus shipping to get something that's a gimmick? Again, I see that product going heavily down in value in like 5 years. Not to mention, and I've said this before, but not to mention, China's going to bootleg the hell out of that thing. So I'm pretty sure there's going to be plenty of third-party and bootleg versions of that thing kicking around that is going to be half the price of that. So if you really care about that experience of getting that like transforming Optimus Prime where you could talk into your phone and, hey, are you my friend, Optimus? I'm pretty sure you're going to be able to get that experience and not have to blow the bank. I mean, if you ask me, like, $700 for that Optimus or $700 for Unicron, I would, even though I feel Unicron is not worth the $600, I still feel Unicron is the better bet. Just a better toy, better. I mean, it's an expensive item that literally you're going to play with it for like 15 minutes and then you're going to get bored with it because you don't even get to mess with it. It's like Optimus, convert. Oh, wow, that's cool. Optimus wave. Oh, that's really cool. 15 minutes later, all right, this is boring. And then you put it on the shelf and you never touch it ever again. So I wouldn't. I'm not a big fan of it. Let's put it this way. I think that if you're going to have a $700 Transformer product, there is so much other stuff I'd rather have made than something with like 5,000 solenoids in it and everything. It's a gimmick. It's a gimmick product. And even the cheapy Transformer gimmick products are not cool. Expensive Transformer gimmick products, Mecha Man Blade, hey Proto, do you have any Transformers that you don't have on display? Well, outside of the stuff that I just bought recently that's right here at my feet. No, I have a pretty strong rule with that actually, where if, and this isn't just Transformers, but in general, I have a pretty strong rule that if you have a lot of figures and most of it is in storage and it's going to like stay in storage permanently, I don't know, man. Like if you're not enjoying it, sell it and enjoy the money. So I have this thing where if I own something, I want it. I want it on display, man. I want it on display, man. Like I want it all over the place, That's the way that I see it more than anything. Like that's the way that I would want it personally. And I know a lot of guys in the fandom, and I almost became one of those when I was still living with my parents, when I was still under that roof before I bought my own place. I know a lot of guys that just 80% of their collection is in storage. And it's sad. It really is. Where it's just boxes of stuff that they never see. They don't even know what they have half the time because they don't even see it. They end up buying 2 of the same figure because they didn't know if they have it. So, like, I always say, like, display your stuff, man. Get some nice detofs, get some nice cabinets, some glass, whatever. Make some nice, pretty stuff. You know, display your collection. Be proud of what you have. Where we at? Ninjatron, what was Mark asking? I must have missed something. Jason, what repaint from Kingdom would you like to have done, or even Shattered Glass repaint you'd like to see of a Shattered Glass? Would you love a Shattered Glass Starsaber? Is there officially a Shattered Glass Starsaber? I don't know if there was ever one. I would love Shattered Glass. Let's go into Shattered Glass first, that question. What's a really good Shattered Glass toy? What's a really good one? Well, I could definitely see like Ricochet and Shattered Glass Jazz being done. Ricochet more so. That was a Yuki Ashima creation, which is the guy who did Kiss Play. He did Ricochet for Shattered Glass, the art. So that'd be cool to get like Studio Series 86 Jazz into Ricochet. That's a weird one. What's another weird one? I'm trying to see. Because I have all the Shattered Glass stuff. I went to all the BotCons those years, so I guess we could have we could use that Sideswipe mold again, and do the Shattered Glass Sideswipe. I'm pretty sure that one's going to come sooner or later. Obviously, Hot Rod. I mean, the easy answer is Hot Rod from '86 Studio Series, but I don't know. I'm trying to think stuff that's outside of that. As for Shattered Glass Starsaber, how would those colors be? I mean, obviously a black repaint would be obvious, but there's got to be something else. Maybe like give him Death Saurus's colors, like the blues and the grays, I guess. You know, give him those, but that would be like, I don't know, that'd be obvious. I do not know, Jason. I do not know what I would do. As for like Kingdom, I don't know. I really want that Grimlock. I think that Grimlock was, if Grimlock wasn't happening, I think I would have wanted Dinobot into Grimlock just because of the GPS issue. So you could finally have a Beast Wars Grimlock that won't just crumble in your hands, which has happened to me. Ugh. That was a nightmare. Where we at? Did Mark answer his question? He wanted to know if you were thinking of going to TFCon. Well, the Baltimore show is October, and they rescheduled the Canadian show to December. I have to see where the world is by the time we get to that point. The rumor is Canada is going to try to get their stuff together by July. That's all I'm going to say. So let's see how the world is by July, and then we'll take it from there. If everything's fine, I'll see you there at both of them. You know? But look, we've been canceling shows left and right. You know, not just TFCons. We're talking BotCons. We're talking SDCCs. So we'll see. It's still too early to tell. It's still too early to tell, but at the same time, I mean, there's a lot of factors that are making it very difficult for a lot of these conventions to happen, crossing borders and stuff like that. So we will see what happens, my friends. We will see. I miss doing the cons. I really do. You know, the podcast has been blowing up over the past 2 years during this craziness, and I didn't do conventions. You know, I didn't get to hang out at the cons and hang out with you guys and do some crazy stuff. So we'll see what happens. Has anyone made fun of you collecting Transformers? And functionally, I have been made fun of. Number one, I come from a family of toy collectors, so it definitely didn't come from my parents. Number two, I went to a primarily hip-hop and black high school in the 90s, where watching anime, specifically Dragon Ball, and collecting Transformers, which had a huge hip-hop connection in the 90s, was cool as F. If you brought a G1 Starscream to school, the basketball jocks were all over it. Trust me, it was a different world where I came from. Jaws D, co-host of the podcast, went to that same high school with me, and he could attest for it. It was a very cool high school to love geek culture, primarily because, you know, anyone who knows the anime world, black people love anime. and so if you go to an all-black high school, you're going to be welcomed for being a geek in a lot of ways of that kind of stuff. I remember like sitting at the back of math class and hanging out with my buddy Chunky. Chunky's like this like 7'6" big muscly black guy, and he's like, yo, yo, so tell me about the Saiyans with Goku and stuff, right? And like I just remember that's what we just did that the whole time. Yeah, good stuff, good stuff. Funny photos. I have to post some photos of him. He's huge. He's like big mofo. Love that dude. Love that dude. Gonna bring him to a TFCon one day. Scare the crap out of everybody. For Shattered Glass, who is Emulator? Is she a brand new character for Shattered Glass? I have no idea who you're talking about, Michael. Emulator? I think maybe you mean something else. Unless you're referring to the Shattered Glass Quintessons, which were very unique. There was a lot of weird stuff that happened from that Pete Sinclair era of stuff. Chunky was awesome, and we called him Chunky because he was massive. His real name was Robert, but Robert doesn't do him justice. African Canadians, amen. Amen. They're awesome guys. Any high school photo you'll ever see of me is just me with my brothers. You know, all my brothers. I was the white guy. I was the minority in my school, and I would not change it for anything in the world because they were great people. I love those guys to death. It was very cool to enjoy sports and do sports and at the same time enjoy geek culture. Playing basketball with guys, and then those same guys would be playing Magic the Gathering. No joke. No joke. Ashley, and Ashley's a guy's name. Ashley, who played Magic the Gathering with us. Negus. Love those dudes. Love those dudes. Shout out to all of them. I miss those dudes. And 2020 was going to be my 20-year reunion for my high school, and it didn't happen, which sucks too. Don't worry, it'll happen one day. They'll reschedule it. Hey Proto, 2 questions. Will Hasbro do Transmetals in Kingdom? I think they'll do Transmetals in something else. I think Kingdom is done. And will they tackle Beast Machine's characters? Well, technically we already got one with T-Rex, which was a Beast Machine's character. So we got our first one already. But I think both of those are for the far-flung future. I think they won't be part of Kingdom. I think Transmetals is something that's on the chopping block, but at the same time, it's something that, the way I see it, it'll be a part of another line. Emulator is Shattered Glass Circuit Breaker. Oh, so it's from it's from the prose stories, the written text stories that were probably done by Fun Publication. I didn't read all of those. I was offered to write one, and I just didn't have the time to do that. I remember Jesse asked me if I wanted to write stuff, and I was like, I don't have the time for that stuff at the time. And at the time, I was like starting garage mechanics, so I was super busy. Nate says here, my current boyfriend is like the first person outside my family to see my full collection. Well, you got to reveal it to people sooner or later. Hey, Proto, not Transformers, but do you like Ronin Warriors, and do you have any figures? Yes, I do. I love Ronin Warriors. I watched it during its original run. I have the original figures that were done by Playmates. I think it was Playmates that did the toys. I have almost the complete run of those original toys. By the way, the rubber on their helmets break every time they dry out. My favorite Ronin Warrior character was Kento, who was the orange dude. He was really cool. Iron Rock Crusher, that was his technique. Love Ronin Warriors. I've always said that it's the... if you took Sailor Moon, you made a male version, it would be Ronin Warriors. Great anime. When it was ported over here, it was 100% uncensored, obviously except for the outros and intros. And fun fact about Ronin Warriors, one of David Kaye's first jobs. The voice of Beast Wars Megatron. Watch the intro for Ronin Warriors. 5 fantastic battle-armored samurais. It's David Kaye. It's Beast Wars Megatron. One of his very first jobs that he ever had in voice acting was Ronin Warriors. So check that out. Very great, very, very, very good anime series. And it was luckily ported over here. And Playmates did the toys, which were the guys behind Ninja Turtles at the time. Dear Proto, I think Night Prowler will be the very first Snow Leopard Transformer. That would be technically true. If let me just look over at the mini cons that were done. Yeah, okay, it was a tiger. It was a white tiger, that one. Because they did some mini cons that were white felines, but no, there was still a tiger. Yeah, it would be the first ever snow leopard then, which is good. Get some variety. We almost got that snow leopard back in the day with the Halloween horror cons, which was, I believe, a Walmart exclusive, but it didn't happen. So it'd be cool. What do you collect beside Transformers? Ooh, Juggernaut. That is a question. Oof. My favorite thing to collect outside of Transformers would have to be video game merchandise. What I mean by video game merchandise, I collect video games, but video game merchandise specifically. So I love action figures based off of video game properties. Mario, Zelda, those are the obvious ones. Pokemon, those are the obvious ones. Where does Proto Man come from? Mega Man. So I love collecting Mega Man merchandise. Donkey Kong, Banjo-Kazooie, Metroid, any Nintendo brands that have video game stuff. When you get into even the likes of, some of the weirder stuff like Primal Rage and Earthworm Jim, I love video game merchandising. Love it to death. You want to get my attention? Like Amiibos. Amiibos are like a godsend to me because all these characters that never got figures finally got a little statue. So that's one. And then I love weird 80s and 90s toy lines. I love Street Sharks, King Arthur, Knights of Justice, Botsmaster, Ultraman, which was done by Trendmaster at the time. Not Trendmaster, DreamWorks at the time was doing the toy company DreamWorks. I was doing the Ultraman toys at the time, towards the future. What else? Biker Mice from Mars, Cowboys of Moon Mesa, Mummies Alive, War Planets, Reboot. I love 90s toy lines. Love them to death because they're short, they're fun, and they're well engineered. So I hope that answers your question. I love weird toy lines. Love them. Love them. And the odd anime figure here and there. Some Dragon Ball figures, some JoJo figures, some Marvel figures, some DC figures. Let's just say this crazy room, imagine this, but video games. Imagine this, but everything else. Japanese Ninja Turtles. Crazy house. Attack Pack. Yes, my brother. Attack Pack. I have a crazy Attack Pack collection. Love Attack Pack. I want to write a comic for Attack Pack one day because they never had fiction. Josh Perez, let's make that happen. Attack Pack comic. We got 2 super chats. Whoa. Michael Koo with the first super chat. For Transformers live action movies, why hasn't Hasbro done Transtectors like Japanese headmasters? We technically had a headmaster. We just didn't see it on screen, which was, what's his name there? Oh my God, why is his name escaping me? He was my favorite character from the movie, from The Last Night. Oh my God, why is I'm getting a brain fart right now. But he was a headmaster. Anthony Hopkins, butler. Guys, help me out here so I don't have to turn my head and look at the carded figure. Someone's going to say it. I don't know why I'm getting a brain fart on that. Not Zeus. Coleman. Wasn't Coleman. Oh, now you're making me get up. Get to the Minton card figure, which is Japanese. Just my luck. Just my luck. I'm going to go get the Japanese carded one. And Cog, thank you. It's Cogman. I get my Japanese carded one, and I'm like, wait a minute. No, I can't read that. Koguman. Cogman. He was technically a headmaster, supposedly in the fiction. We just never got to see it. He was probably the only thing that made that movie good. And funny. The butler. So supposedly he was a headmaster. His toy was a headmaster. So technically there was headmasters. Technically. But we'll probably see something like that in the future. Who knows what they're going to do for the next movies if they want to bring those gimmicks in. Then we have another super chat from Mark Morales, 1516, and Mark wants to know, hoping that things get better, we can have more conventions in the future. Mark, man, I really hope so too. I really do. I miss the con scene. I miss the con scenes. I miss doing panels. I miss doing parts parties. I miss all of that stuff. Like anyone that saw me at TF cons in the past, they know that it's going to be a good time, especially when we hang out. It's something that I miss. It's something that I really, really miss. Oh, I got all the different Cogmans. I love Cogman. Again, that's why I even have a Japanese one, because I did a toy review of Cogman many years ago, and one of the Japanese guys at TFCon saw it, and they asked me in person. They're like, "Do you own this one?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, but I don't own Japanese one," so I always kept it carded because I have the Japanese. It's the one that's just like you twist it, very simple. I like Cogman. Now I remember his name. I totally forgot his name because those movies are so memorable, of course. He sings in the music. Where we at? I didn't join the last stream, so what did you think of HasLab Unicron? Let's go get him. This big sucker. He has the third party wings on him though, so ignore these wings. These are the third party wings, so I could have both modes. I like him. He's okay, but like I said, I don't think I do not think he's worth the $600. I think he's worth a $400 figure. But he's still pretty cool. Big heavy. You hear that? Big heavy ratchet joints on him. It's like shooting a gun. But I mean, he's okay. He's okay. He's all right. He's all right. He's heavy as hell, though. Ugh. And then I have the planet mode there, too. But that's a whole other story. I'm not going to lift up the planet mode over here. Proto, do you have any limited run release games or similar rare physical media? Oh, yeah. I was one of the early adopters of Earthbound before I knew that Earthbound was going to be worth money. I picked up Earthbound from Zellers back in 1997, 98, just because it had a big box and it came with a book. And then years later, it ended up becoming big money. I have a few limited run game stuff, more specifically the stuff from Shantae, the River City Ransom stuff they did, the Metal Storm figures that I bought that one because it came with a figure, but I bought the Metal Storm stuff. I skipped out on the Scott Pilgrim one. Funny that you asked that, though, Ninjatron. I recently bought... I wasn't going to bring this up because it's not Transformer related, but PC-88, they did a... I'm going to try to open this up and show you guys. PC-88, which is the PC Engine, which is what's known as the TurboGrafx 16, they did a special collection with the PC Engine Works. So you get like a coaster set, you get like some postcards, and then you get like a collection which is numbered of I think it's 200 it's numbered. Yeah, like here. 121 of 200, and it's a collection of a whole bunch of PC-88 games. Most of them are shooters and stuff like that. So I recently picked that up because I really love these like collections and these games like Sapphire, this game here, the actual version of it is like, I think it's like $1,000 now in the secondary market. So I picked that up too, but that's not video, that's not TF related, so I didn't bring it up. Do you have Shantae and the Pirate's Curse? I love Shantae and the Pirate's Curse. That's a really good game. That's a really good game. Very easy, though, but a very good game. Shantae and the Pirate's Curse. Very good. Very, very good. You have the Super Mario Game & Watch that you showed to us. Yes, I do. You know what's crazy with that thing? Like, I'm very good at Super Mario 1, but playing it on a Game & Watch it reminds you of how difficult the game could be when you change, like, the controls. Like, when you have, like, those little rubber controllers. I have one. It's really cool. They're still kicking around in Walmart today, so don't pay a scalper price if you ever see someone selling one. Dear Proto, I was wondering if you... a 90s guy. I was born in the 80s, but I consider myself a 90s kid because the 90s was so cool. Have you ever read Simon Furman's unofficial novel Alignment? Yes, I have. Yes, I have. Which was meant as a conclusion of the G2 story with Liege Maximo and the Swarm. Yes, I did, actually. I did many years ago. BotCon. When did he put that out? BotCon 2000. No, excuse me. BotCon 97, 98. I think he put that out. I did. I love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Oh, those PC-88 things are cool. Yes, they are. I love PC-88. Sapphire is a very good game and ridiculously expensive. So getting that special collection edition is one of the easier ways to play it on actual console hardware. Do you have No More Heroes? No, I haven't, but my friend Josh, different Josh, not Perez, kept suggesting it to me to play it. Supposedly it's really good. I watched him play it once. It looks fun. I just don't have all the time in the world. You know what I'm playing right now, actually? People don't realize this. Right now, I'm playing the Legend of Zelda 3DS Link Between Worlds because I just never got around to playing it. I bought it like years ago, and I just never got around to playing it. Now I'm playing it now. I'm almost done it, too. That game is painfully easy. It's like Zelda on easy mode. Like, wow. And there's a lot of similarities to Link to the Past, so it's also maybe that's kind of what makes it easy for me. I don't know. But I really like it, though. It's still fun, but it's ridiculously easy. Proto, since you both love video games and Transformers, do you own most of the Transformer video games? I own all the Transformer video games. I did a panel of Transformer video games in person at TFCon in 2010, where I was even physically bringing the games to show people. And I used to run Transformer video game panels at TFCon, but I don't know. It depends if like the USA shows it's more difficult because when you bring the hardware over the border, sometimes they give you a headache. It's like, did you buy this before you left or after you left? And it's like, oh my God, the last thing I need is someone confiscating my copy of, Waza no Convoy. So, but I used to do video game panels too for TFCon USA. Now I do, once in a while we have fun. Never play against me in Street Fighter. That's all I'm going to say. I'm very competitive with my fighting games, so very, very competitive. Dear Proto, I love G1 and Prime and other cartoons, but I can't watch Beast Wars and don't think it's for me. I'm doing something wrong. Well, why is it not for you, Clay? What is it about Beast Wars you do not enjoy? Oh man, we have 5 minutes left too. Woof. Get your super chats in, people. We got 5 minutes left. Okay, I'll just answer your question quickly, Proto Silver. So for modern hardware right now, I'm primarily a Switch and a PlayStation user. One of my friends about 2 years ago, before the pandemic and stuff like that, he gave me his Xbox 360, and I started going into the Xbox library for the first time ever because it's backwards compatible. You could play also Xbox One games with a download. And a lot of good Xbox stuff, too. I'm slowly getting into that Microsoft library. I really like Crimson Sky, which was like a shooter game. I really like that one. I was surprised how good that was. Which Transformer video game is your favorite, Proto? Ooh, let's just not count War for Cybertron, Fall of Cybertron, because those are just perfect in every way. I really love the DS Autobot Decepticon game, based off of the first 2007 movie. Those are sleeper hits. They're really good. The Beast Wars Transmetals game for PlayStation 1 is a fun fighter, and it has original animation by Mainframe, which is really cool. And you get to see Rhinox as a Transmetal and Waspinator, which is pretty awesome. Where did the time go? I know, Aaron. Seriously, eh? What else is a really good one? The Beast Wars fighting game for a Game Boy. Really good. Beast Wars Ultimate Fighting Experience, like has a weird name. The Dream Factory game that had Hasbro, Takara, crossover stuff with Konami. That's another fun one. There's a bunch, but I'd go like if I had to pick one that isn't War for Cybertron, Fall of Cybertron, that first 2007 DS Autobot Decepticon two versions DS game. Really good. You get to make your own character, pick your alt mode, color yourself, and be part of the movie 2007 story as it's happening. Very fun game. And you level up your character, customize them. Great game. Dreamer out here says, with the super chat, thank you, Dreamer, Beast Wars is amazing, even though the animation is kind of old. It's all there. You just have to see through the haze of time. It's very high detail for the time. Well, especially, when people tell me they can't watch Beast Wars because the animation is dated, but they could watch Generation 1, I find that bizarre because, I mean, Sunbow and Marvel Production had really rough animation in those first 3 episodes, and season 3 of G1 is freaking terrible. You know, that was ACOM Studios with Nelson Shin, and it is terrible, terrible, terrible stuff. Like, you know, think of like season 1 Simpsons, because that's what Nelson Shin was also animating at the time. Like season 1 Simpsons and how rough that was, and then make it even worse because it's 1986 Transformers. You know, oof, it was pretty bad. Think we ever see the ending of the Dreamwave TF comic books? I wish. I love the Dreamwave comic books. I love them to death. Me and Josh Perez always wish that stuff would happen. We're going to take a few more super chats and then we're going to call it a night. Let's see. There's a few back up here. So many with the super chats. Gene 1 was dated when it was brand new. Well, no, not. You know what? Ninjatron, like, when G1 came out in 84, I think it was revolutionary compared to, like, what Hanna-Barbera was doing at the time. I mean, when you compare it to what Japan was doing, I'll agree with you. You know, when you look what, you know, Do You Remember Love was, you know, compared to G1, you can't compare. But compared to what Western animation was doing at the time, G1 was pretty revolutionary. And that's how I feel like the same way with Beast Wars. You know, I feel like at the time, if you were living that world at the time with Beast Wars, it was amazing. You know, it was amazing. It was the best CG at its time. Some of the best stuff until Shadow Raiders came around, which is another like sleeper series that a lot of people don't watch. That was from the creators of Beast Wars, Mainframe Entertainment. Hey, Proto and Beast Machines, we all know Botanica transforms into a plant alt mode, but it makes me wonder how would a Beast Wars series set on a planet similar to Avatar Pandora be received? Well, they probably not, you know, no one wants to see Transformers that transform into upright humanoid characters as an alt mode. So they'd have to obviously be scanning those weird animals on Pandora. And then would be what is it called? Unobtainium? Is that the name of the source of energy? Would that be what the Maximals and the Predacons are fighting over? I don't know. I've never been a fan of the Avatar movies. I always felt that they were they're okay, but best-selling movie of all time? I don't know about that. Stinkfist69 with the gold super chat in the close, because Stinkfist69 is awesome and he is 69. Again, with Ronin Warriors, have you seen the new PX exclusive figures? Yeah, I have. My friend Newt, shout out to Newt, Freedom Gundam on the Transformer boards. He's a local here. He has almost all of them, and I am so jealous because I just don't have all the money in the world to collect every action figure. I would love to own just the Kento. That's it. Just give me the Kento. Maybe, Armor of Wildfire, the Inferno version with White Fang, Black Fang. I don't know. They look great, though. They really do. They look really good. I have all the Playmates ones. I almost feel satisfied having those. Great series. Anyone who hasn't watched it, if you like Sailor Moon and you want a man version of it, watch Ronin Warriors. Or as it was called in Japanese, I think it was called Shogun, Go Shogun. God, what was it called in Japanese? Samurai Shogun or something. Something like that. Samurai Go Shogun. Had a weird name. We'll take one more question, and then we'll call it quits for the night. What will be the last question? What will be the last question? What will be the last question? Let's go with Ryan Strange with the last question of the day. Shattered Glass Cyclonus using the Kingdom mold would sell out in a minute. That's more of a statement, not a question. So you'd be saying Shattered Glass Cyclonus with the Rodimus colors, which I actually have. I have that one too. Yeah, it would probably do well. It's probably not the last time we're going to see that mold. They're probably going to do something else with it too. We'll get to Samurai Troopers. Thank you, Ninjatron. I remember it had like Samurai something, Samurai Shogun something. I don't remember. I remember. Oh yeah, that's why. Because they didn't want to call it Samurai Troopers. I remember reading up on this because of Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad and VR Troopers were on TV at the same time, so they didn't want to have the brand confusion. So they went with Ronin Warriors. Now I remember. I learned that from Animerica magazine, which was a anime magazine back in the 90s, which I don't know if that's available in the States. I know it's available here in Canada back in the day. Good old Animerica. That was the cover that had Sailor Moon on the cover. That's how I know that, because they were talking about anime being ported over here. Anyways, I get Farrak. So guys, that's it for the stream today. Once again, I want to thank my sponsors. I want to thank everyone who's been here today. So again, Symbiote Studios. Be sure to check them out. SymbioteStudios.com. The plush, the pins, and the Playboy t-shirts. Check them out, yo. SymbioteStudios.com. Check out their latest Grimlock and Starscream plush that are out. Again, SymbioteStudios.com. And once again, guys, thank you all for coming. If you want to continue support of the podcast, I have a Patreon. Patreon.com/Protoman. I'll put it in the description below and in the pinned comment if you want to help support the podcast. Let me know we're doing a good job in this crazy environment and the crazy world we live in today. Aside from that, if you want to just follow what I do, I'm on Twitter. We have, so it's all on the side over there. My Twitter account is Protoman. My Insta is Protoman Gaming, where I post a lot of images. And if you want to see all the other crap that I do on theprotoman.com, it links to some of the other stuff that I've done in the past. But again, thanks everyone for coming. We went a little longer than normal, but I hope everyone was entertained. I'm surprised how I'm always able to do this alone, and people get enjoyment out of it. But thanks everyone for coming. Thank you, Andy, for being a member of the podcast too, with your little bumblebee icon there. Thanks everyone for coming. Thanks for any people in Hasbro or former Hasbro employees that are in the chat right now. And once again, like I always say, roll out.